to kind of, in a very weird and indirect way, to share with you how this particular dream works. I'll tell you a story. About 35, 40 years ago, we were at a gathering, and there was this woman. She was relatively young, in her, I think, 30s. And Persians enjoy talking about politics and religion. And so all of a sudden, as all these people, relatively educated with PhDs and doctors and surgeons, all of a sudden she gets up and she screams. This is usually not the way Persians behave. They're very modest and humble in gatherings. And all of us are in shock. We look and say, what the hell is this? And she says, you guys all need to be quiet. What do you mean? There are angels, she says, sitting here. Or some spirits, or some deities, or some things, beings, that they're being troubled, deeply troubled by all the things that they're hearing. So shut up. And then she passes out. This is a woman who's very, very secular. She had never read the Quran. She never spoke a word of Arabic. She disliked religion intensely because of what a religion had done in the past 20, 30 years to our people and country. She passes out and she goes into a coma. Nobody knows what to do. Once in a while she would awake and she would speak in German. Then she would pass out again. Then she would wake up and all of a sudden she would speak in Arabic. And then she would recite, even though she had never opened the sacred text called the Quran. She could recite the entire chapter. And some of the chapters are really, 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 really long. And this is this other kind of a dream where you're not religious, you're minding your own business, you're fully immersed in life and your five senses and all the difficulties and pleasures of life, and you really have no inclination towards the path of religion or wisdom. And yet, all of a sudden, something happens to you where you become very, very, very religious. For those of you in this class who know of this particular saint, her name is Bernadette. She is French. She's this young kid in a family of, I think, 3 girls or 2 girls. Her parents are hardworking people. It's a religious environment. One day she's sitting outside and all of a sudden she sees the image of Mary. An ordinary girl. And the point I'm trying to make about these different versions of dreams is that sometimes people have certain dreams that transform them and they can never go back to the person that they once were. Everything about their life turns upside down. And they become enormously religious or just change the period, kind of like Malcolm X. Now, what you have is the leader of this clan, and I don't know his name, I forget. He has captured Tom Cruise. Samurais are interesting people. They don't really kill their enemies once they've been captured. They want to figure out who they are, what they are, and if they can, train them. But the question is, what is he? Japan is a 3,000-year culture. Tom Cruise is about 150, 200 years of the American tradition. What is he? In other words, what is his software? He's a 25-year-old white kid. What is he? He's a soldier. What kind of a soldier? He's a yes man soldier. He just goes around killing people because he was told. What sort of a software does he have? He's also a drunk. He also lacks the proper tools to cope with all the wrong things he has done and all the guilt that lives inside him. What is he? A dysfunctional human being. And when he is captured, what does he ask for? Alcohol. He wants to drink. And how does he ask this Japanese family, this woman whose husband Tom Cruise actually killed on the battlefield? Now, that's another thing that's somewhat interesting. You have a woman whose husband goes into the battlefield, gets killed by a man that you now host. As a wife with 2 kids, you want to kill this man, but no, that's not your culture. You have to keep your emotions. Push him down. You treat your guests with a good amount of hospitality. Remember what I told you about cultures that are ancient. They have traditions, they have rituals. Now, how does Tom Cruise, captured in this household, asks for alcohol? He doesn't say, I'm sorry for having killed your husband. Can I please get some drink? No. He's unapologetic. And he screams, Saki, give me alcohol. Why? He wants to forget. I suppose that should be a lesson to all of us. When you pick up to read a good book, it's because you have no one to talk to. I don't know. Next time you go somewhere to drink, maybe to get a little buzzed, is because you lack the proper creativities to express yourself. And so you need help, and you seek that help by consuming alcohol, maybe smoking, maybe getting into a fight. So remember, as a human being, we have no choice really but to try to find ways to cope. From the moment you wake up, you have to figure out what you should do or what you ought to do that'll make you feel as if your life means anything. You go to a class, you call your friends, you call your mom, you call your dad, you have these ridiculous conversations to feel relatively relevant and significant. There comes a point where Tom Cruise now sits with the leader of this clan. What Tom Cruise doesn't know is that this samurai has gone through all the things that Tom Cruise as a soldier had written in his journal. How he had killed the Native Americans, what does it mean to be American, how often he drinks, and what sort of nightmares he has. And Tom Cruise asks the samurai, why don't you just kill me? Why do you want to know about my past? Why should I tell you anything? And the only thing the samurai says to him is, you Americans don't like to have conversations? We're just sitting, I'm asking you questions, you can ask me questions, that's all we're doing. And there is another thing you should know about the Western psyche. It doesn't want to bring up the past. It's far too painful. The samurais don't mind talking about the past, how difficult life can be at times. It makes for a very, very, very great conversation, but not Tom Cruise. Okay? What is it that the samurai wants to do to Tom Cruise? Yes, Tom Cruise is white. Yes, Tom Cruise is a white soldier. But Tom Cruise now lives in a tiny Japanese village, structured by the samurais and samurai tradition and rituals and culture. What is it that the samurai wants to do? He wants to turn a white man, a white American, into a Japanese. How is that even possible? The only way you can do this is remove the software and insert another one. Let me repeat that because I don't think you guys understand, appreciate the enormity of this. A software contains history. It contains stories. It contains psychology. It contains meaning. It contains emotions. It contains memories. It contains identity, purpose. It makes your body move. It gives you belief systems. And the stuff that lives inside this young American soldier is a good amount of anger. And he's lived a very, very lonely life. How do you change all of that? Because the samurais are communal people. They eat together, drink together, talk together. No one gets drunk. No one acts inappropriately. No one screams, no one shouts. You fight because there is honor in it. And when there is honor in your fight, there is no guilt. You believe in the cause. You live well and you die well. Tom Cruise lives bad, kills bad, and now he's haunted by nightmares. And now you have this leader, the samurai, who says, I like Tom Cruise, and I think there is great potential. And how do you bring a dream into a reality? How do you remove the interior of Tom Cruise and replace it with a different set of stories that will create a different set of emotions that will hopefully create for a different identity? I want to tell you a story. Another digression, my apologies. My country, Iran, has been oppressed for a long, long time for a variety of different reasons. Religious reasons, political reasons, social reasons. Women have been oppressed and they can't go to school. They couldn't get a job. Things are getting a little better, but still. So we had this friend. He was a doctor. He wasn't the best looking of chaps, but he had come to a place in life where he said, I want to get married. I have a good job, a great house. There's just no one who lives in the house. I feel alone. I want to go home and get married. Now, here's the thing you need to understand about oppressed people. They will do whatever they can to get out of oppression. So all these young women from many, many, many years back home, they hear the news that so-and-so had just come from England or had just come from America. And America is the city on the hill. It's a place where dreams and hopes come true. And so this man, who is not very attractive, goes to this household, and it's a traditional family. And so after having some tea, having some conversation, the mother of this man looks at the parents of this young woman and says, so, is your daughter ready for marriage? This is my son, Dr. So-and-so. And all of a sudden, this girl's eyes just get really, really big. She's very excited. Not so much about getting married to the man, getting married to a man doctor who lives in America. The only thing she hears is, if I get married, I will go to America. I will get my green card, then become a citizen, then divorce him. Then I can find someone who I can categorize as my soulmate. And that was her plan. She gets married. She comes here. They live together. She gets a green card. She gets the citizenship. And her friends keep calling her saying, you're an American citizen now. Divorce him. We have found this guy for you back home. Oh man, he is beautiful. He is an artist. Come, he's waiting for you. She says, I love my husband. What do you mean you love your husband? He's got no hair. He's limping. He can't see. He can't hear. What is there to like? I don't know. There is something about him I really, really like. I'm in love with him. Tom Cruise wants to run away from the samurai community. But little by little, he falls in love with it. Do you know how strange it is to fall in love with your enemy? So much so that you slowly begin to adopt their ways. How do you do it? Okay. Tom Cruise is not a man who is social. He's not communal. The only thing he knows is how to kill, feel guilty, get drunk, and have nightmares. That's all he knows. He has sex, but there is no commitment. He has lost the ability to trust and to love. He's got no friends. How do you change someone's software? First, you need to make sure that the software that you have is functional. Don't just go out there breaking people, telling them they suck. Make sure that if you want to break something, you have the tools to put it back together nicely. Okay? Don't be stupid like Socrates. Invite people to examine their life, and once their life falls apart, then you look at them and say, okay, you're on your own. It doesn't work that way. If you want to help someone stop being an American, you better give them a tradition that'll work. Hmm? Tom Cruise is not given a book to read. There's a bodyguard, this old man who takes Tom Cruise on a walk every single day. And what does he see? Kids play together. Women cook together. Men farm together. They eat dinner together. They train in swordsmanship. And he's a little puzzled initially, I suppose. How could these people, who I was told were nothing more than savages, how could they live in such a harmony? It makes no sense. And little by little, Tom Cruise begins to trust these people. How do you create trust inside someone whose ability to trust has been shattered? You spend time with them. But you can't spend time with someone who is not going to be available to you. I can't call you every day and say, come to my office, and then you don't show up. If you want to go through rehab, you need, like the magician and Osikin, give your life to the magician. Trust him. Spend time with him. And that's exactly what the samurais do to Tom Cruise. They spend a lot of time. And of course, when you're a captive, well, there isn't much choice, really. And then when you spend time with someone, and if they haven't damaged you, betrayed you, done anything to destroy the trust, something very strange happens to you, something that you haven't felt in yourself for a long, long time, which is you begin to like the people who have captured you. You begin to like your enemies. And you kind of walk around saying, why do I like them? I want to run away, and yet I can't. And you have this conflict on the inside. You want to stay, you want to go. You want to stay, you want to go. And you have no idea what to do. And it's a very, very, very crucial point in your life, because if you have a friend from far away saying, your friend and I are getting together and we're smoking, come. You say, I haven't smoked for like 3 weeks. I want to continue not to smoke, but I'm also being tempted. If you remove those people from your life for another 6, 7 months, then hopefully you'll have enough strength on the inside. Should they call you, you'll simply say, no, I'm not interested. And the thing that's going positively for Tom Cruise is that there are no distractions. Wherever he goes, he sees samurais and their tradition. Okay? There comes a point to the movie where he's been in the mud. He walks into this house, his shoes are muddy. And as he's walking throughout this space, he messes up the floor. He muddies the floor. And this woman just quietly comes and cleans it. And she's been doing this the entire time, but he's never paid attention. This is what happens when you come from a young culture. Whatever you touch, you destroy. It's like telling your 5-year-old to make you breakfast. He has never been to Vietnam. Never. He's read a couple of lousy books. Forgive me. But those books have inspired him. I, like the salmon fish, want to figure out how to get back home. But he's not going back to Vietnam as a Vietnamese. He's going back to Vietnam as someone who looks like a Vietnamese, but has the software of an American. And you know what happens when he goes visit his uncle there? He's going to take his American mannerism to Vietnam. But because his uncle is a seasoned man, he's always going to look the other way. He's a guest. And he's going to make a lot of mistakes. And you know what his uncle is going to do without telling him? He's going to walk behind him with a rag and clean every spot that he walks on. He's going to introduce his nieces and nephews to rap music. And his uncle says, well, that's good music, but that's not really what we listen to. And because his uncle is a cultured man, he's not going to say, don't listen to this music. He's going to say, so, when are you going back to America? In other words, I don't really want you to contaminate my kids. There comes a point in the movie where Tom Cruise comes to realize that this woman has been cleaning after him, and he feels really, really guilty and ashamed. So you know what he does one day? He leaves his shoes outside of the door and comes in barefoot. He's beginning to understand. How do you understand? Spend time. But don't spend time with fools. Spend time with those who are rich in culture, in reflection, in experience, in emotions. You want to get high? Sit with Socrates. Don't sit with Snoop Dogg. You're angry? Sit with Mahatma Gandhi, not with Mike Tyson. There comes a point in the movie where the chief, the leader of this community, has a great relationship with Tom Cruise. Tom Cruise has a great relationship with him and with the rest of the people. He begins to farm. He begins to refine his swordsmanship. He begins to learn the language. He no longer drinks. He no longer has nightmares. He eats with the people, breaks bread with them. Physical bread, emotional bread, intellectual bread, spiritual bread. And he's willing to sacrifice his life for the well-being of the community. A community he has grown to love. And he's grown to love because of time spent with people. And now one day the samurai comes to him and says, you no longer need to be here. You should go back home. Now that's the real test, isn't it? Where for 20 years you've been drinking and smoking and getting into fights. And then someone finds you in a gutter somewhere, picks you up, takes you home, gives you a bath, cleans you up. and says, you can stay here as long as you want. You throw a temper tantrum, you break dishes, you break windows, but they come home, make you food, give you towels, shower. And then after 20 years of spending time with this person who has taken care of you, they look at you and say, here's $1,000. Go have a good time out there. And when you're released from this place, where do you go? You go where prostitutes live, drug dealers live, and yet you have no desire or interest to be around those things. Tom Cruise is released. He goes back home, and by home I don't mean America. He goes to a westernized Japan, where people drink and smoke. They listen to bad music. They speak bad. They taste bad. They smell bad. Everything about them is Western. And you would think that Tom Cruise would feel at home, but no. He is white on the outside, samurai on the inside. And then he runs into his captain, and he's offered a glass of vodka. And he says, I no longer have any need to drink. I am drunk on the inside because I have the culture of the samurai within me. I am high all the time. I am organically high. And so, what time are we done? Are we done now? I'm sorry, are we done now? Let me finish the story then. And then the movie ends. I'm sorry? It's good to see all of you. Have a nice weekend. Please, on your way out, grab yourself some cookies, fruit. Thank you, people.